This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News9, English news as it should be.
Thanks very much for tuning in to Unmissable. I'm Nabila Jamal right here on News9. I take you through news from India and across the globe. I'm going to start with our top story, Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister, who spoke at the UNGA. As soon as he started his speech, most of the delegates staged a walkout. So it appears that Netanyahu in this fight against Gaza or Hamas seems isolated. But he still makes his point, saying the job will be done. He will not allow for a Palestinian state. I will take you through that. And of course, finally, we're looking at free speech or cybercrime. In Telangana, a new rule has come about that says if your social media post can instigate or incite any anger or violence, then you will be included in the list of rowdy sheeters. That this is criminal, you can be picked up and treated as a criminal. Proceedings will be carried out as a criminal. So that's big because then it all comes down to free speech on social platforms. And finally, on our top story in day tonight, Sonam Wangchuk, the man who's been the face for protests in Ladakh demanding statehood in Ladakh. He's been arrested under NSA charges, the most severe. I'm going to take you through all those details. As always, I start with the headlines. MEA spokesperson Randir Jaiswal confirms that over 2,400 Indians have been deported from the United States since January, pressing that India stands against illegal immigration or illegal migration and wants to promote pathways for legal mobility of people across borders. India calls Mark Rutte. His statement about Modi discussing Ukraine strategy with Putin factually incorrect and baseless. MEA confirms no such conversation took place. Basically, NATO chief had said Modi is pressured by Trump tariff, has called Putin and said that he must take a stand on Ukraine at the earliest because I'm being slapped with tariffs, to which India has strongly denied, saying false information given by NATO chief. Lashkar-e-Taiba sets up terror training center in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's Lower Dir region under religious cover. Camp to train suicide units and serve as a hub for advanced jihadists, posing direct security threat to India. Activist Sonam Wangchuk has been arrested under National Security Act, the NSA Act, as the MHA alleges that he incited unrest through his provocative statements that fueled the violent protests over statehood in Leh. This follows his NGO SecMol losing its FCRA license over alleged irregularities. Indian captain Suryakumar Yadav has been fined 30% of his match fees for his comments during Pakistan game linking win to Pahalgam attack and armed forces. ICC has warned against political statements during Asia Cup. Tamil Nadu Deputy Chief Minister says that he travels even on Sundays, mocking Vijay's weekend-only campaigns and highlights his own continuous outreach, basically trivializing the TVK, a party that's now fighting the DMK for the upcoming elections in Tamil Nadu. Kerala High Court to hear Dulquer Salman's plea over customs seized vehicles. In fact, they've seized a few of his high-end luxury cars in a probe, a tax evasion probe. Dulquer claims purchase was made in good faith, questions the seizure process. The High Court directs the Customs to file its reply and adjourns the matter for September 30th. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu declares he will finish the job in Gaza amid ICC war crime charges during his speech at UNGA. Arab, Muslim, African and some European delegates staged a massive walkout during his speech. We are going to be starting our story on that. All right, let me start off with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu facing embarrassment at the UNGA meet. Soon as he started speaking, it seems like a lot of the delegates walked out. Dozens of delegates staged a dramatic walkout at the United Nations General Assembly as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took the podium. The protest came amid the protest in fact came amid all the growing global isolation for Israel over its nearly 2-year war in Gaza. In fact, we are taking you through these visuals. Let's have a look.
Please, order in the hall. Please, order in the hall. Please, order in the hall.
We heard boos and jeering that was echoing in the hall. As Netanyahu was just about to speak, we saw many of them decided to stage that walkout. Now, Netanyahu faces the International Criminal Court arrest warrant as well for alleged war crimes. But yet he vows that he will finish the job. In that speech there, he spoke saying the job will be done as quickly as possible. He's added, he says, final remnants of Hamas are all hauled up in Gaza City and he will ensure that Hamas is wiped out and all those hostages, Israeli hostages who are still kept in Gaza in different parts, they will be freed at the earliest. In fact, Benjamin Netanyahu very specifically stressed on the fact that allowing for a Palestinian state or countries supporting for a Palestinian state only would mean, and a message that would be sent out is that it's okay to kill the Jews. This is what he said extensively in his speech. Netanyahu, in fact, lashed out at Western nations who recently recognized the Palestinian state, and that included France, Britain, Australia, Canada, India as well. He's accused all of them of sending a wrong message, saying that this support for a Palestine separate state would only mean it's okay for it's really okay for Jews to be murdered. Murdering Jews pays off. That's what he says. This is a message sending out, calling their move as a betrayal in the wake of Hamas October 7th attacks. Remember, here you have Benjamin Netanyahu, who's ordered his military to hold speakers. In fact, speakers were kept along the Gaza area for his UNGA speech to be echoing in Gaza as he spoke today.
This week, the leaders of France, Britain, Australia, Canada, and other countries unconditionally recognized a Palestinian state. They did so after the horrors committed by Hamas on October 7th. Horrors praised on that day by nearly 90% of the Palestinian population. You know what message the leaders who recognized the Palestinian state this week sent to the Palestinians? It's a very clear message. Murdering Jews pays off. Well, I have a message for these leaders. When the most savage terrorists on earth are effusively praising your decision, you didn't do something right. You did something wrong, horribly wrong. Half the Houthi leadership in Yemen, gone. Yahya Sinwar in Gaza, gone. Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon, gone. The Assad regime in Syria, gone. Those militias in Iraq, well, they're still deterred. And their leaders, if they attack Israel, will also be gone. And for Iran's top military commanders and his top atomic bomb scientist, well, they're gone too. We're not done yet. The final elements, the final remnants of Hamas are holed up in Gaza City. They vow to repeat the atrocities of October 7th again and again and again, no matter how diminished their forces. That is why Israel must finish the job. That is why we want to do so as fast as possible. I've surrounded Gaza with massive loudspeakers, connected to this microphone in the hope that our dear hostages will hear my message. Our brave heroes, this is Prime Minister Netanyahu speaking to you live from the United Nations. We have not forgotten you, not even for a second. The people of Israel are with you. We will not falter and we will not rest until we bring all of you home. So to the remaining Hamas leaders and to the jailers of our hostages, I now say, lay down your arms. Let my people go. Free the hostages, all of them, the whole 48. Free the hostages now. If you don't, Israel will hunt you down.
Well, that was a clear message coming in from Benjamin Netanyahu. There are hostages still there, hauled up by Hamas in Gaza area, and he wants them out. If not, he says the job will be done. He's also denounced all those countries who supported for a free Palestinian state. Even before arriving into New York, Netanyahu seemed to have had quite an interesting trip. His official jet, we hear, the Wings of Zion, charted an unusual path, and it literally avoided most of European airspace. So we hear that there's an arrest warrant for him in nations that are tied with the International Court of Justice. Flight trackers showed Netanyahu took a full detour through the Mediterranean and the Strait of Gibraltar, where he bypassed most of the European countries and took a much longer route to reach the United States for this UNGA meet. Observers believe that this route was carefully chosen to prevent any risk of detention. In case there's an emergency landing, like in countries like France or Britain, etc., then they're very much within their right to arrest him, as per the international court. Ordinarily, Israeli flights to the United States cross Central Europe, but with several European governments openly saying that they would act on the international court's orders, Netanyahu did not want to take a chance. So he took a much longer route to finally arrive in the United States. And, well, what we saw here was very interesting. Netanyahu made that statement. It was certainly a statement, one where delegates left and showed a walkout, and two, Netanyahu saying, I don't care, we will finish the job. Let me bring in quickly for a little more on this Ambassador Manju Seth, former Indian diplomat. We also have Dr. Zakir Hussain, Middle Eastern expert, and also Pramit Pal Chaudhary, head of South Asia Eurasia Group. Thank you very much, all our global experts, for joining us. I'll start with our Ambassador Manju Seth. It was not surprising that we saw many delegates stage a walkout, but yet at the same time, Netanyahu's speech there really hit the nail on the head. He said, unless hostages are released, we are not backing off, and we will do everything it takes to finish them off. So if finishing Hamas off would also mean Gaza goes in the process, we don't care. In as many words, he said that. So he stayed stern, as there was a huge walkout that was staged there. Benjamin Netanyahu clearly is isolated. Many countries there objecting and frowning upon the way he's carrying out this war. People calling it war crime. But the man refuses to back off.
I think we all saw how the diplomats from different countries, from Africa, from Europe, and others, and Arab nations walked out. Now, I think what is happening, this war has gone on, so everybody is, and innocent civilian lives are being lost. Of course, the stated purpose is to finish Hamas, but when and how Hamas is going to be finished is a big question mark. And because, again, of course, Israel wants to do that, and I think the stated purpose is that, but in the collateral damage is too huge, and I think humanitarian crisis, or the humanitarian loss that is taking place, I think that may be one of the reasons why there is a kind of fatigue and a kind of, everybody wants this war to end. And yes, they want the hostages released, they want the war to end, and Hamas to be also, targeted and neutralized. But I think the way the things are going and the way they have been going on, and with it leaves very little space for Prime Minister Netanyahu. I think he's been put into a very tight corner. There's been all this, because sometimes the US says, we are standing with you, but at the same time, they're putting pressure. And now the recognition from different European countries, as you rightly mentioned, UK, Australia, Canada, has been given. So it leaves, Netanyahu in a very tight spot.
Yeah, I mean, if you really look at his international standing at this point, it seems like he's clearly isolated. But that said, there doesn't seem to be anybody coming to aid Gaza or Palestinians. This is basically lip service that countries have done. It takes time, I understand, but people are dying, children are dying every day by the minute. 65,000 people, including thousands of children, have died. Mostly children out of the 65,000 have died in the last 2 years. If this is not war crime, then what is? What is proportionate? Here you're looking at how do you have a proportionate war? You're looking at Hamas, who carried out that massacre on October 7 2 years ago. And Benjamin Netanyahu says, I will do everything to ensure that they're back, and even if it means wiping out whole of Gaza. Is this proportionate? Is this fair? And can you also blame Benjamin Netanyahu for doing what he's doing, because he still has 43 of his citizens still hauled up in Gaza by Hamas? Dr. Zakir Hussain, would you want to come in on that?
Look, thank you. The diplomats have done a very good job, and he has given a blow to the Netanyahu, and look, his body language is very desperate, and he's nervous, and he's feeling isolated also. And certainly he is committing genocide, and he is not ready to back down. And the issue is not Netanyahu, but this is the time for United States to understand the global community's sentiment and isolation of America and Israel, because all are Global South, BRICS, EU, Arab countries are standing on the one side. On the other side, only two countries are there prominent, Israel and President Trump. And this is the high time. And you are also correct that this may be a lip service, because after 75 years, they have recognized Palestine as a statehood and two-nation solution. But on the ground, they have not done anything. They have not said to stop the supplying arms. This is very crucial to stop Benjamin Netanyahu. And also Germany, which is the second largest arms exporting country to Israel, it has also not recognized. But at the same time, we also find that the president of Colombia said that he is ready to give 20,000 troops and make a global troops and fight in Gaza and defeat Netanyahu's government idea forces. And this shows that the world, apart from those who are interested to continue the war, is in anger, and we have to wage the relentless war against Netanyahu, and ICJ
but who is
must
going to
be given
wage the
right.
war? Who is going to wage the war? If one
This is
assumes that
they have responded. They have to think only voting is not enough. If they are voting, they must convert it into some actionable plan on the ground in Gaza. Otherwise,
since you're an expert, my only question is, you're an expert in Middle East. Why isn't any Middle Eastern country coming forward? We had Israel attack Qatar and in an aim to kill Hamas leadership, but there's been no response.
We have to understand that Middle East has two features. Number one, monarchies, regimes, and the public. Public is quite angry. It is ready, but the monarchs are not ready to go there, because they have tacit understanding with Trump. And even after the attack on Qatar, they are not going.
So basically, there is no Muslim Brotherhood. The concept the bubble of Muslim Brotherhood is busted.
Not Muslim Brotherhood, but the monarchs are different. They are totally monarchical state, and they want to protect their regimes. That's why they are doing all these things, to divert the anger of their public that they are doing something. But in reality, they are not doing anything which can protect the people of Gaza. This is the basic irony in that question. And so what I feel that what Netanyahu says, he will carry on, genocide will carry on, Trump will give a strong backing to Netanyahu. And we were finding that Saudi Arabia, and when Pakistan formed defense alliance, President Trump has been successful to divide the Qatar and UAE to don't join this. Another, when he met the 9 or 8 Muslim leaders in a separate meeting, he said that gradually and slowly Israeli forces will go back, and immediately there was a response from Netanyahu that we will finish the job. It means that President Trump is also trapped in
I don't know. I just feel somehow that the world is giving too much credit to the United States. Is it all to do with the United States?
It's not credit. It's a blame.
No, I'm saying there's too much credit going to the United States. That because of United States, Middle Eastern countries are not getting involved. Because of United States, Israel is feeling more emboldened.
It is a matter of army. No country is daring to send army. And one country which is backed by United States, which is basically it is United States which is doing all sorts of genocides. No country has courage to send. Even China and Russia and all these countries are just watching the movements.
All right, let me also bring in Pramit on that. Pramit, Netanyahu also announced that he has loudspeakers put up along the entire Gaza area so that they can all hear his UNGA speech. He directed it to the hostages, but we know Gaza is right now in tatters. There's hardly anything left. Complete West Bank has been occupied. Whatever little bit is left, he promises to finish the job as soon as possible. Do you think a Palestine state will even come about?
So this is, I think, basically where Netanyahu's path is going. Everybody else, including India, continues to hold to the concept of a two-state solution. And his argument is effectively, I will ensure that there is only one state left, which is Israel. And the basis of a future Palestinian state simply does not exist. In which case, all of these recognitions of Palestine by various Western nations, mainly European, is basically irrelevant, or will become irrelevant by the time this conflict is over. And that's where the path is going. He is receiving effectively tacit support from the United States. Trump is an isolationist. He doesn't really care what the rest of the world thinks about anything. He has no interest in the Palestinian state, obviously, and is basically letting Netanyahu do as he wishes. So between that, he doesn't really have to worry about anything. So it is to some degree, in many ways, Netanyahu has to follow this path now because he has gone in many ways too far for him to walk this back. And in many ways, I would also argue that the conflict that he has to push this conflict because what happened in October 7th is a reckoning that still has to be done within the Israeli system as to how could he have allowed the worst massacre of Israelis since its inception as a nation.
Yeah, it all happened under his watch, but now, and what's proportionate, Pramit? If I asked that, I said it earlier, is it even proportionate, the response from Israel to what happened on October 7th? Hamas abducted and killed nearly 1,000 odd people. And in response, 65,000 people in Gaza have been wiped out, and largely children. How disproportionate is this, in your view?
It's highly disproportionate, but the game is political. That I cannot now, for him, he cannot allow Hamas to survive. That he has basically rationalized or legitimized his actions, that my response to October 7th is to eradicate Hamas. But it's more than just a question of disproportionate response. We have to realize that October 7th is a direct consequence of his attempt or his belief that he had struck a deal with Hamas. When he denuded the southern border of Israel of soldiers, transferred to the West Bank because his primary goal was to fulfill the settler demand of absorbing the West Bank into Israel. So effectively, he was planning to take over destroy the Palestinian Authority, and he declared that I've struck a deal, as he publicly said, with Hamas that allows me to do this. And of course, when he removed almost the entire U.S. Israeli security structure on its southern border, Hamas promptly stabbed him in the back. So now he has no choice but to continue on this path. Otherwise, he cannot explain the incredible strategic error that he made that led to October 7th. So for him, the question of disproportionate response is irrelevant. The question is that politically, that is the only explanation he can give now, or should we say the revenge argument, that I will eradicate Hamas as a threat once and for all is the only explanation he can give for his political existence. He's been helped, however, by the fact that he has accomplished one thing, which has caught almost everybody by surprise, is the almost complete destruction of the so-called Shia Crescent. Iran's informal empire, Hezbollah, the Assad government, though that had much to do with Israel's doing, have been wiped out. And of course, Iran itself has been effectively bombed with complete impunity by Israel. So Iran's entire strategic capacity in that region has been almost completely eradicated under Netanyahu. So he can claim to his people, forget, not only am I wiping out Hamas as a threat, but I have also destroyed what was considered to be the great existential threat to Israel, Hezbollah, and I have brought Iran to its knees. So he's positioning himself as this great military leader. The question really for Israel, and it's not a question I think anybody in Israel except for a few are really asking, that while this is a great short-term policy, is it have any real long-term legs? Is this the original Israeli policy was always land for peace, that we seek to become a normal state within West Asia accepted by Arabs, in which case, of course, the concept of a peace process is important. Netanyahu is basically throwing that all away and saying we will not seek to be a normal state. Arabs will have no choice but to accept us as what we are, and they will have to give up on the Palestinian cause. Is that feasible over the long term is the big question.
You know, a quick one from Ambassador Manju. Do you believe that Netanyahu will be arrested at any point? The International Court has issued an arrest warrant. Many countries, mostly European countries. He took a full detour before going to the US, took a longer route so that by chance he has to emergency land in any of the European countries, he could likely be arrested. A quick word and a final one on how does that work? Are they allowed to shoot his plane?
No, I don't think they're allowed to shoot his plane, but if he enters their country, yes, they're obliged to arrest him. All those who are members of the ICC. So I think they would have to. They cannot afford, as you very rightly said, he's flying, overflying, but if in case he needs to land, then they will arrest him. I think that is something. So he would like to avoid that, and that's the only option that they have. You can't shoot the plane. Normally not, but you never know in these uncertain times which country would react in what way, because the way things are changing every minute, literally, and there's a new unexpected event takes place and something else happens every minute, I think, literally. So
and if Netanyahu has decided to cross all barriers, then why wouldn't anyone else? Final word, Zakir, you were nodding your head.
No, I don't think these European countries would have arrested him, because two-nation theory, two-nation solution is just to save Israel, because Netanyahu is shifting the Palestinian issue to the generation, and they want a very secure place for Israel, for genocide, Zionist agenda to remain Israel there. And that's why they are talking that about two-state solution is the solution. I don't think this is the right time. And they would have not arrested, and they don't have defined what is two-state solution. Neither they are talking about territory, nor constitution, nor any right.
But from whatever I gather from all of you here, then what I understand is that there's nobody stopping the Israeli force right now.
America is there. Until America is tamed, nobody is going to stop Netanyahu.
And that's far from. All right. I request you to please stay with us. We had another big talk from Pakistan that came in, and we want your inputs on that. Our panelists will stay with us on this very high-profile diplomatic moment. US President Donald Trump hosted Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif at the White House, Sharif's first one-on-one Oval Office meeting with the US President since Imran Khan in 2019. So Sharif, accompanied by Pakistan's Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir, was received by senior US officials. In fact, they had to wait for at least 30 minutes before Trump actually called them in, is what we hear. The Oval Office talks covered trade, regional security, and wider global challenges. The irony here is most of the visuals that came out were put out by Pakistan's official handles, but not the United States. Against protocol. United States would usually put up images or videos. US stayed clear from putting out any videos of their meeting with Shehbaz Sharif. Interesting point to note there. Ahead of the discussions, Trump lauded both Sharif and Munir as great leaders as well. Here's what he said.
looking like we have a deal on Gaza. And we'll let you know.
All right, well, that wasn't the right one, but apologies for that. But Trump basically called them great leaders. But the spotlight was Sharif's full-throated endorsement of Trump on the global stage. At the UN General Assembly, Sharif not only backed Trump's claim of helping broker the recent India-Pakistan ceasefire, he also went a step further, calling for Trump to be nominated for Nobel Peace Prize. Here's what Sharif said at the UNGA meet, almost endorsing and glorifying Trump.
In recognition of President Trump's wonderful and outstanding contribution to promote peace in our part of the world, Pakistan nominated him for Nobel Peace Prize. And I think this is the least we could do for his love for peace. And I think truly he's a man of peace. Had he not intervened timely and decisively, the consequences of a full-fledged war would have been catastrophic.
Now, Sharif also launched a sharp attack on India, branding it the enemy nation in his speech there. India, for its part, has categorically denied any US role in ceasefire, insisting the truce was bilateral. Pakistan's warm embrace of Trump signals just how keen Islamabad is to court the President Donald Trump, especially after the recent US-Pakistan trade deal as well. As Jaishankar has spoken, let's listen in.
A persistent threat to development is that perennial disruptor of peace, terrorism. It is imperative that the world display neither tolerance nor accommodation to terrorist activities. Given the extensive networking among terrorists, those who act against them on any front actually render a larger service to the international community as a whole. As we confront conflict, economic pressures.
All right, let me bring in our panelists on that. Ambassador Manju, let me start with you on US-Pakistan's bonhomie. I would say that Shehbaz Sharif there is glorifying and praising and hailing Trump and how, saying that the least we can do is to nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize. Not shocking, but such a fall.
Yeah, but that I think after what has happened in the past and how the US-Pakistan relationship is really in the dumps, this turnaround, I think Pakistan is taking full advantage of this newfound importance in the scheme of things in the US the scheme of things, and I think they are taking full advantage, and they've absolutely, I think, very smartly, figured out what is the way to his heart, sort of, and how by giving him this, what he wants to hear, by saying what he wants to hear, and they have managed to endear, I should say, themselves to President Trump, and it is an opportunity for them. I think it's all this while they had been shunned, and suddenly there's a turn of of the wind, and they've taken full advantage of that, as we can see. And now, both Prime Minister Sharif and the army chief are there together with Trump. I think that is something which is, which was not expected, and which was totally, it's something new. But this is where what President Trump, after calling them, it's the worst state, etc., and worst country possible, and suddenly now the best country and the best this thing. So I think what President Trump has been doing, we have seen in the second term, he has been constantly changing his stance on a host of issues, and including with Pakistan. So I think now this is something which we have to be very cautious about. India has to be extremely cautious about this turn of events and safeguard as best as we can, our national interest.
But it's funny and ironic how Donald Trump speaks of fighting terror extensively and supports Israel to fight Hamas, and says that any sign of terror will be wiped out in the United States and whatnot. And here he has full support for Pakistan, that is harboring terror on its ground. The double standards, it's so visible and it's so striking. Trump also doing this in a way to deliberately instigate India. It clearly appears that this is done to send out a message to India as well. Isn't it, Pramit?
One has to be very careful with Trump. There's an assumption that there is some sort of broader strategic concept behind it, but Trump often just says things that come to his mind. Piers Morgan, the TV anchor who said he'd known him for over 25 years, used to say about him, with Trump, ignore what he says, only follow and bother to notice what he does. So he says things that come to his head, but often are not connected to anything else. So I would say a couple of things. There is definitely the case that, as has been mentioned by the ambassador, that Trump is a bit of a narcissist, and therefore Pakistan, along with other countries, have been very careful to stroke his ego. He's very desperate to win a Nobel Peace Prize. It's a strange obsession that he has, and a number of countries have endorsed him, not because they believe he deserves it, but because they think that wins points with him. He is obsessed with mineral resources. He thinks that these are very important. Pakistan has offered him many, including oil fields, which do not exist. And of course, the ceasefire itself is connected to the Nobel Peace Prize. There is also fairly strong evidence that the Pakistani military has poured money into these various crypto schemes run by his family, and these are in effect should be treated as bribes to the Trump and his inner circle. The problem Pakistan has is that after this, they don't have very much to offer to the United States. They cannot buy American weapons because they are simply too close to China. Their economy is so small, it's smaller than, their GDP is smaller than that of Mumbai.
So all they can offer is praises and voting for a Nobel Peace Prize, really? Is that all?
Well, they've tried to offer oil fields. Trump got excited until everybody, including in Pakistan, pointed out that they've been looking for oil in Pakistan since 1915, have never found any. The mineral resources that he offered were deep in Baluchistan, and nobody, including China, has the courage to go and pick them up. You'll notice that Trump said recently that he wanted to reclaim the Bagram air base in Afghanistan. The Taliban said, please come and try. We've already defeated you once. You can't take it again. But at the UN, at sidelines of the UN, China, Russia, Iran, and Pakistan came out and said, we do not support the reestablishment of military bases by foreign countries in Afghanistan. So Pakistan, in effect, rebutted what Trump said, or had asked for, not because they wanted to, it's just because China said that is our position and you'd better take it because we pay your bills, not the United States. So Pakistan tries to play this game, and it can, but it really doesn't have much to offer put on the table.
Yeah. A quick word from Zakir before I end here.
Listen, what I feel that we are completely clueless while they are meeting. We are giving our gestures, we are giving our conjectures, but I think that there is some serious things are going between them. Because earlier he called Field Marshal Tostem Heath, and now he has invited informally to Shehbaz Sharif, Prime Minister, and they might be signing a formal agreement. One thing is there. Other thing I want to connect that there Netanyahu is committing genocide. The Muslim world and the global South is angry. He wants to divert the anger from there to letting defense agreement with Saudi Arabia, so there may be some sort of appease. And second, that they are supporting Pakistan, so this may be divided. So Trump, whatever Trump is doing, it looks that it is his charm, but in the background we see time and again we have seen that over the period of time he implements his program. If we consider our case, with our case, he was always praising Prime Minister Modi as our closest friend. Gave special book on Prime Minister Modi when he visited there. But what he has done to us, and recently he has imposed 100% tariff on our pharmaceuticals, which we were telling that we are supplying 30% pharmaceuticals. America cannot bear this. But I think that
we are supplying generics. We are not so we don't really entirely come under that. But it's a very blurred line. It's a blurred line. I understand. It's a blurred line, and it's sent
in 1 year. In 1 year, they will be able to raise their pharmaceutical industries.
So be it. You know, Trump has been saying a lot of things. At the end of it, medicine. The prices
we are importing the ingredients from China. They will be directly importing the ingredients from China and raise their pharmaceutical industries.
Okay, we'll see. Ultimately, it's US will lead it, will go into inflation. Their prices of medicines will shoot up, so he'll have to come to a level playing field as well. It's not a one-sided game, right? Thank you very much. I really appreciate all of you for joining us. That's all I have time for. We're going to slip into a short break. We'll be right back. On the other hand, stay with us.
The answer.
खुशियों का हो रहा है आगमन, मां दुर्गा के डिवाइन दर्शन। देश के सबसे बड़े लाइफस्टाइल एक्सपो में फैशन का जबरदस्त कलेक्शन, फूड और शॉपिंग के होंगे ढेरों ऑप्शन। TV9 फेस्टिवल ऑफ इंडिया का हिस्सा बने। स्पेशल पार्टनर लायरा वुमेन्स वेयर, लेगिंग्स वो जो लायरा हो।
फिलिप्स, सोने पे सुहागा।
पोलो एलिवेटर्स, स्मार्ट भारत की स्मार्ट लिफ्ट।
Curves that turn heads. Intelligent touches that excite. Presenting the sleek and smart all-electric BF6 from VinFast. India price starts at 16.49 lakhs.
Hi everyone, my conversation with Duologue next is really amazing. It was very mentally stimulating. I have had a really good time talking to him and I look forward to more conversations like this. I'm definitely taking back something today, and that is what got you here won't get you there.
Football is our culture. Match days turn into festivals. Every goal ignites the crowd. Strangers become family. Football is our culture, but goals are our tradition.
Welcome back. In Telangana now, it appears free speech might just land you in trouble, that you might just be dubbed as a cyber criminal. A leaked report from the Telangana Cyber Security Bureau has sparked quite a storm. The document proposes opening history sheets for social media offenders, even for those who've never been convicted in the past. It claims 69 such history sheets already exist and mentions a training camp to track online speech as well. Critics say that this is dangerous, blurring the lines between free speech and crime. It could mean that sharp posts or criticism online that people can put out, you or I, it can be treated as cyber crime, bringing ordinary citizens under surveillance. Police argue that this is done only to ensure that there's no fire that's fueled out of a social media post. It's not instigating any communal riot or a riot of any kind, and that this is a bid to crack down on any kind of fake news, scam, and even terror incitement or recruitment as well. Now, just a day ago, social media posts triggered arson and stone pelting at a Garba Pandal in Gandhinagar. So, citing these instances that a social media post can really flare sentiments and it should be treated as a cyber crime. This is what Telangana police say. But imagine you put out something that you want to express with such passion, and your name could be on the history sheeter list if you're in Telangana, and if it hasn't gone down well within the administration, the police, or people at large. So the big question here is this preventive policing or an attempt to muscle dissent? Telangana has come out with this order. Do you think it would resonate across India, and should it be made a pan-India rule? It's shocking to us, but let's bring in Sanjay Sahai, former ADGP of Karnataka, joining us for a little more. Sanjay Sahai, thanks very much. Your take on this?
Thank you.
If you write if you put out a post that one does not like, you can very well be treated as a history cheater under Telangana's new rule.
I think that is your interpretation of things, but what I am intrigued about is there are no clear-cut guidelines. So whatever has been communicated from the DG of Telangana state and this particular thing which we are reading about, it basically talks of something which is happening in a surreptitious manner. So first and foremost, that the history sheets which are created, criminal history sheets, does not come out of thin air. It comes out of a legislation, and that legislation is finally translated into the state's police manual. Based on that, history sheets are created. Now, in this case, there is nothing in the police manual. So what they are trying to do is they are extrapolating the police manual rules or police manual sections which are used for normal criminal history sheets to creating digital history sheets. As far as my understanding goes, social media and the digital world is a totally different animal, is a totally different creature. And the police in large parts of this country are unable to understand. And the only way they can control this is coming with some draconian sort of an exercise. Now, if they're talking about history sheets, then what does it comprise of? How do you become a history sheeter? The very name, without getting into the legality, means that you have been doing it in a habitual manner. In a history sheet also, conviction might not happen, but you still get onto the history sheet. But how do you define that in the social media? When the definition of crime itself is not there, you call it a cyber crime. What we are talking about in the social media, I don't think it anyway corresponds to cyber crime, but for very few of the social media posts. Rest is basically a transgression into what government feels is its rightful domain. And when it feels that you have crossed the rightful domain, or they have not been able to control something. Now the post you are talking about what happened somewhere in Gujarat. Now the post might be, okay, it's fine. But when a violence happens, they connect the post and that violence and then make you into a criminal. So broadly, there are no safeguards. There is absolutely nothing which is written in black and white that this constitutes or this is the criteria to become a history sheeter. And the freedom of speech, which we have seen, see the background is also very, very surreptitious. The way social media posts have been tackled with criminality, I think there is lots which is desired. Only on the 10th of September, I think it was the Nala Balu's case in the High Court of Telangana, which was a very watershed directive given by High Court of Telangana, which primarily becomes the law of the land till the time something is legislated upon, which very clearly states as to what will be the criteria, and just reacting against the government or something which you find to be not acceptable, even words which you find to be not acceptable, cannot be treated as an offense.
So do you believe this should be tweaked to say that?
It should not be tweaked. It has to be redone, redefined, rewritten.
Wow. Okay.
There needs to be a social media law. Okay. There needs to be a social media law which is even independent of the IT Act. The IT Act also is not sufficient enough to understand social media, and as we move into artificial intelligence, we move into deepfake, and we need into variety of things which governments are struggling to understand, inclusive of the governments abroad. It is very, very difficult that you just push off some Sarkari order and you feel that things will be set right. Okay. It is primarily to give teeth to people who are struggling with something which they don't know how to handle.
Exactly. Well, great view on that. We thought the same as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Sai, for joining us and shedding light on that topic. All right, let me cut across to our top stories on Day Tonight. Donald Trump, in a major move that could reshape global pharmaceutical trade, US President Donald Trump has announced a 100% tariff on branded and patented pharmaceutical imports effective October 1st. Unless companies build a manufacturing facility in the United States. While generic medicines, which is India's largest pharmaceutical exports to the United States, are technically excluded, this announcement has certainly sent shockwaves through the 20 billion industry. Stocks of most of our top Indian pharma companies dipped today. That includes giants like Sun Pharma, Dr. Reddy's, Cipla, Lupin and Aurobindo. In fact, all of them worry that they could face disruptions, though they sell mostly generics. But we also understand that many companies in India sell branded drugs to US under contract for multinational companies. They partner with them and send out branded drugs as well. So this is going to be really, this announcement itself has come as a huge tension and disturbance for pharmaceutical companies in India, though right now largely they send only generics, which is basically medicines that run once the patent period is over, then they sell those medicines abroad. So this is basically what India does. Most of the Indian companies are selling generics largely, but the blurred lines here, because Trump, he says one thing, does something else. They're still worried if this will basically trouble those companies who sell nearly 45% of its exports to the United States, if they are going to be now bothered with this new ruling. Analysts warn that even the definition of branded could create hurdles, affecting shipments and increasing costs. For Indian exporters, the message is of course quite loud and clear. To avoid tariffs, they may need to now build manufacturing plants. That's what Trump says, that you build on our soil and move all of your production unit here, or at least move your production unit here, so then we'll allow you. That only means that it could raise production cost, capital cost exponentially and squeeze margins for the Indian pharmaceutical giants as well. While the tariff aims to promote US domestic production, it could also disrupt supply chains, potentially also inevitably raising drug prices in the United States. It could create shortage for patients of the United States as well in the short term if this disturbance hits the supply chain. Remember, generics largely comes from India. So US not defining what branded medicines means would only mean that they will also have to face the brunt. This announcement now is part of a broader protectionist push by Trump with additional tariffs. He's also put tariffs on kitchen cabinets, furniture, heavy trucks, highlighting Washington's focus on reshoring manufacturing and protecting domestic industries. For India, the world's largest supplier of generics to the United States, and this tariff will only be posing a big challenge because, like I said, even though it's defined that only branded medicines and patented ones will have this tariff of 100% tariff, but still Indian companies now feeling very worried that this could very well affect their generic medicines as well. Now cut across to Ladakh. In a major development in Ladakh, climate activist and innovator Sonam Wangchuk has been arrested by the police under NSA Act, the National Security Act, days after violent protests over statehood in Leh that left nearly 4 people dead. Sonam Wangchuk has now been arrested for inciting violence. This is what the agencies say. Authorities allege that he incited unrest through provocative statements. Remember, this comes just a day after his NGO SecMol lost its FCRA license. Following the arrest, mobile internet services have been suspended in Leh, and sources suggest that Wangchuk may be moved out of Ladakh. He's right now taken to an undisclosed location. 2 days after protests demanding 6th schedule and a separate statehood rather, we're looking at Sonam Wangchuk. The face of those protests has now been arrested. Wangchuk was taken into custody even before he could conduct his press conference, is what we hear. All right, India bids farewell to a legend of the skies after more than 6 decades of unmatched service. The iconic MiG-21 took its final flight today. India bid farewell to the legendary MiG-21 fighter jet that has shielded the nation's skies for over 60 years. On September 26th, that's today, 23 Squadron, the Panthers, in fact, it took the MiG-21 into skies one last time before the aircraft retired from service. A true workhorse, the MiG-21 may not have been glamorous, but it carried the weight of India's air defense when it really mattered the most. The choice of Chandigarh, of course, was also symbolic. It was in Chandigarh in 1963 that India inducted its very first MiG-21, a jet that went on to define the backbone of the Indian Air Force. From outclassing Pakistani sabers in 1965 war to striking enemy targets in 1971, the MiG-21 etched its name in history with speed, agility and unmatched power. Over its lifetime, the fighter clocked an astonishing 1.6 million flying hours across thousands of missions. Its real swan song came as recently as May this year during Operation Sindoor. As the aircraft flies its last, this is really historic. Veterans and officers remember not just the machine but the courage and skill of the men who piloted it. MiG-21's roar has now fallen silent, but its legacy will carry on. Tensions have erupted in Uttar Pradesh's Bareilly. Tensions in Bareilly as protests over I Love Muhammad posters spiral out of control, forcing police to resort to lathi charge and deploy heavy security at key sites. In fact, after Friday namaz, a big group had gathered outside the Ala Hazrat Dargah and the residence of Maulana Taqir Raza Khan. They were carrying I Love Muhammad placards there. Protesters there eventually clashed with the police, pelted stones, raising religious slogans, prompting authorities to intervene. The unrest traces back to September 4th when a similar poster was displayed during the Eid-e-Milad in Nabi procession in Kanpur, and that was objected to by some of the Hindu groups, and that resulted in huge face-off between the two communities there on September 4th. And since then, it seems like the Muslim community, out of defiance, has been flashing I Love Muhammad posters and banners wherever they get a chance, and hashtag I Love Muhammad on social media platforms as well, attributing this to Prophet Muhammad. Kanpur police registered cases against 24 individuals over the tent installation, but they've clarified that this is only tent installation. The FIR does not target anybody for holding the poster itself. Political leaders, including Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav, condemned this lathi charge. Asaduddin Owaisi of AIMIM criticizes the attempt to socially boycott quote-unquote Muslims, he says, emphasizing that expressions of faith should be respected. Meanwhile, in a disturbing discovery in Bahraich, Uttar Pradesh, 40 girls aged between 9 and 14 were found confined inside at an unregistered madrasa during an official inspection. The inspection carried out in Pahalwara village under Payagpur Tehsil was prompted by repeated complaints about illegal madrasas operating inside a 3-story building. Officials say that the madrasa management initially tried to prevent authorities from going upstairs, but police were present when inspectors discovered the girls were locked inside a toilet on the terrace. According to locals, the madrasa was being operated for 3 years without registration, and during questioning, the teacher said the girls panicked and ran up and locked themselves in the bathroom, but the madrasa has 8 other rooms, but they chose the bathroom on top. Clearly, the madrasa administration here is in the dock, and they are guilty because it's not been registered and been running illegally. The girls were sent home and they are safe. Authorities now examining the madrasa and its records. In fact, a complaint has been filed as well for not registering the madrasa, but it appears that legal action is to follow yet. But the girls' families have not approached the police. The incident raises concerns as there are nearly 495 madrasas that were identified in 2023 that were running illegal, and now it seems like many more still continue to run despite government orders to register. All right, and finally, Bengaluru has once again been rocked by late-night rampage. Armed miscreants in Bengaluru went on a vandalism spree, leaving dozens of vehicles and damaged cars. In fact, these armed men, masked, have moved out into areas in Bengaluru like the Valmiki Nagar, Byadrahalli area, where a group of 5 to 6 men allegedly under influence of alcohol went out and started thrashing many vehicles and breaking down windows. Armed with iron rods, the gang has smashed nearly 25 vehicles in Bengaluru, shocking residents there. They came out to try and warn these men, but they were threatened with those machetes and then ran away. Same group is suspected to carry out a similar attack even in Muddenapalya near Annapurneshwari Nagar, where 4 masked men did the same thing, vandalized 10 cars and went about damaging property there and fled in an auto rickshaw post that. This violence has escalated when the local driver tried to confront the miscreants. He was attacked as well. CCTV cameras had captured all of this, but residents now very upset. They're hoping for the police to act. 10 FIRs have been registered, but we still don't know what exactly is the reason for this vandalism, and they are on the run. Thanks very much for tuning in. You do have a great weekend.
Love is nothing without the thrill. Unlimit love. The B6 Pack 2 starts at 21.9 lakh. Mahindra Electric Origin SUVs.
TV9 Festival of India 2025 दिल्ली में मचेगी धूम। इस नवरात्र दिल्ली के दिल इंडिया गेट पर स्थित मेजर ध्यानचंद राष्ट्रीय स्टेडियम में आइए और डूब जाइए उत्सव के रंगों में। 28 सितंबर से 2 अक्टूबर तक TV9 फेस्टिवल ऑफ इंडिया 2025 ला रहा है म्यूजिक, डांस, स्वादिष्ट फूड, शॉपिंग का अनोखा संगम। डांडिया नाइट्स में थिरकिए, बड़े बड़े कलाकारों की शानदार परफॉर्मेंस का लुत्फ उठाइए और नवरात्रि, दुर्गा पूजा और दशहरा के रंगों में खो जाइए। लाजवाब व्यंजनों का स्वाद लें और लाइफस्टाइल एक्सपो में फ्री एंट्री के साथ शॉपिंग का मजा लें। तो सुबह 10 बजे से शुरू होने वाले इस फेस्टिवल में अपने दोस्तों, अपने परिवार, अपने पार्टनर के साथ बनाइए यादगार पल। टिकट बुक करें बुक माई शो पर और तैयार हो जाइए एक अनोखे उत्सव के लिए। TV9 फेस्टिवल ऑफ इंडिया 2025, जहां हर पल है जश्न, हर पल है उत्सव।
स्पेशल पार्टनर लायरा वुमेन्स वेयर, लेगिंग्स वो जो लायरा हो।
फिलिप्स, सोने पे सुहागा।
पोलो एलिवेटर्स, स्मार्ट भारत की स्मार्ट लिफ्ट।
Football is our culture. Match days turn into festivals. Every goal ignites the crowd. Strangers become family. Football is our culture. The goals are our tradition.
Stop being so self-centered. You're being dramatic. Boss babes don't complain. Why so selfish?
Self-care is an excuse. Looking after yourself is never selfish.
Correct.
Light, camera, and action. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite snack because News9 is here with your weekend dose of entertainment.
It's time to take a deeper dive into the buzzworthy happenings of the entertainment world. From celebrity gossips to exclusive conversations, from nostalgic moments to News9's pick of the week. Don't worry, we've got you covered here. And I hope you've grabbed your popcorn by now because News9's page 3 is here to serve you everything that we call entertainment. So do stay tuned every Saturday and Sunday, 2:30 p.m.
Every brand tells a story. And they are the storytellers. The Sutradhars. They present a brand with band, baja and barat to you. They are the Brandwalas.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News9, English news as it should be.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching News9. I'm Shweta Kothari. Let's begin the show with headlines. Environmentalist Sonam Wangchuk arrested under National Security Act days after violent protest in Leh. Authorities allege Wangchuk incited mob with provocative statements. ICC fines Indian T20 captain Surya Kumar Yadav 30% of match fee for comments after Asia Cup against Pakistan on 14th of September. BCCI appeals against fine. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu strongly condemns Western countries for recognizing Palestinian statehood, says it sends the message that murdering Jews pays off. Leaked Russian documents analyzed by London think tank makes massive revelation, says Moscow is supplying military tech to China that could aid potential Taiwan invasion. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif massages Trump's ego at UNGA, says Trump helped in stopping India-Pakistan war, and for that Pakistan nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize. You're watching News9. I'm Shweta Kothari. Our top story this hour comes from UNGA, where Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif continued his disinformation campaign. Massaging US President Donald Trump's ego, Shehbaz Sharif said that the US President played an active role in brokering a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Sharif also went on to push for a Nobel Peace Prize for Trump, claiming that he is a man of peace. Take a look.
Every Pakistani, you stood as one unbreakable wall, a Bunyanum Marsus. Excellencies, though in a position of strength, Pakistan agreed to a ceasefire facilitated by President Donald Trump's bold and visionary leadership. We express our deep appreciation to him and his team for their active role in bringing about the ceasefire. President Trump's efforts for peace helped avert a more threatening war in South Asia. Had he not intervened timely and decisively, the consequences of a full-fledged war would have been catastrophic. Who would have lived to tell what happened? And therefore, in recognition of President Trump's wonderful and outstanding contribution to promote peace in our part of the world, Pakistan nominated him for Nobel Peace Prize. And I think this is the least we could do for his love for peace. And I think truly he's a man of peace.
And parroting Donald Trump's ceasefire and mediation claims has exposed the lying pattern of rattled Pakistan. Earlier, in a rare public admission, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar said that India never agreed to any third-party mediation on issues between the two countries, directly undercutting US President Donald Trump's claim. And now they're taking a U-turn.
Says India says that it is a bilateral issue. We don't. So we are not begging for anything. If any country wants dialogue, we are happy, we are welcome. We are a peace-loving country. We believe that dialogue is the way forward. But obviously, it takes two to tango.
And after that UNGA appearance, Donald Trump welcomed Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to the White House, a meeting that marks another chapter in warming ties between Washington and Islamabad. Sharif was greeted by senior US officials at the West Executive Avenue entrance. At his side was Pakistan's Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir. Inside the Oval Office and behind closed doors, Sharif held his first ever meeting with President Donald Trump. It's also the first time that a Pakistani Prime Minister has been received in the Oval Office since Imran Khan's visit in 2019. The high-level talks are believed to have focused on a wide-ranging agenda and issues from bilateral trade to regional security to global geopolitical challenges. Ahead of the meeting, Trump praised both Sharif and Munir, calling them great leaders. Shifting focus now, after MEA rejected NATO General Secretary's claim that Modi and Putin phone call happened immediately after Trump imposed tariff on India. Mark Rutte said that we haven't lost Modi yet and still maintain close tie with India. Now, Mark Rutte, remember, earlier quoted controversy when he said that Prime Minister Modi made a phone call to Putin immediately after penalty was imposed, an additional 25 penalty was imposed on India by the US.
Narendra Modi was there from India, and of course he is not lost, so we still also try to maintain strong relations with India. But he was also there, but particularly, it's true, we have seen, of course, the Belarusians, but Putin, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un using this train because he doesn't dare to fly, I think. Narendra Modi was there from India, and of course he is not lost, so we still also try to maintain strong relations with India. But he was also there, but particularly, it's true, we have seen, of course, the Belarusians, but Putin, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un using this train because he doesn't dare to fly, I think.
Shifting focus now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered his address at the United Nations General Assembly even as scores of delegates walked out of the hall before he even began to speak. He said that Israel must finish the job and rebuked Western nations for embracing Palestinian statehood.
Please, order in the hall. 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 Please, order in the hall.
And after that, Benjamin Netanyahu took to the podium. He warned Hamas. He said, and I quote, "Lay down your arms, free all hostages now. If you do, you will live. If you don't, Israel will hunt you down."
My words are now also being carried. They're streamed live to the cell phones of Gazans. So to the remaining Hamas leaders and to the jailers of our hostages, I now say, lay down your arms. Let my people go. Free the hostages, all of them, the whole 48. Free the hostages now.
And President Donald Trump said he was close to forging a deal to end the war in Gaza and bring hostages home as he prepared to meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He said, "It looks like we have a deal on Gaza and the deal will get the hostages back."
It's looking like we have a deal on Gaza. I think it's a deal that will get the hostages back. It's going to be a deal that will end the war. It's going to be a deal it's going to be peace. I think we have a deal. It's looking like we have a deal on Gaza. I think it's a deal that will get the hostages back. It's going to be a deal that will end the war. It's going to be a deal it's going to be peace. I think we have a deal.
Staying on with Donald Trump, he has intensified crackdowns on non-US citizens now. The US Department for Transportation has issued an emergency regulation restricting commercial driver licenses for non-US citizens. The move comes after a deadly semi-truck U-turned, crashing in Florida, resulting in a nationwide audit exposing serious safety concerns and lapses. Now, non-US citizens will now need stricter eligibility to drive, including employment-based visas and federal immigration verifications. And the US Secretary for Transport, Sean Duffy, slammed states issuing licenses to ineligible drivers, highlighting California, where more than 25% of non-domicile licenses were improperly issued. The state has 30 days to comply or face withholding of nearly $160 million in federal highway funds. This crackdown follows President Trump's executive order to enhance road safety. Future will be difficult for those who do not comply with the order as far as states in the US is concerned, but any oversight will also include stricter English language requirements for commercial drivers. Now remember, as of 2021, over 7.2 lakh foreign-born drivers, many from Punjab and Haryana, power about 18% of US trucking sector, of which Sikhs make up 40% of West Coast truckers and 20% nationwide truckers in the US. Their presence is visible on trucks, rest stops and logistics firms. Trump's crackdown may tighten rules, but it also risks shaking a key link in the US supply chain. India has now raised a strong concern over United States' decision to impose a one-time $100,000 fee on future H-1B visa applications. In its latest report, the Department of Economic Affairs called the move a stark reminder that trade uncertainties are now impacting the service sector as well, which had so far remained resilient amid global tensions. He says this is a move that could significantly affect Indian IT firms that rely heavily on visas for on-site deployment. Now, while the near-term impact is expected to be manageable, the government has warned of potential disruptions to services, exports as well as remittance inflows, two key drivers of the Indian economy, specifically the services sector. The fee hike, which does not apply to existing visa holders or renewals, raises cost concerns for companies who are looking to now hire trend in India and move them abroad. Industry experts say that traditional export models may come under pressure if high visa costs persist. Growth in IT services exports, previously expected at about 5% in financial year 26, may fall down to 4% depending on how long these restrictions will last. The report also pointed to broader tariff-related risks that could spill over into employment, income and consumption domestically.